In the context of ongoing tensions in the Gaza Strip, with no signs of de-escalation, the humanitarian situation in the region has reached alarming levels. Over 2.3 million people are facing severe shortages as food, clean water, and medical supplies become increasingly scarce. In the past week, thousands of tons of humanitarian aid have been delivered to Gaza through various means, from land routes to airdrops. However, according to the assessments made by international organizations, the current volume of aid remains far too limited compared to the actual needs. Conflicts in the reception and distribution process, along with the mutual accusations among involved parties, are making humanitarian assistance efforts complex and highly contentious.
On August 3rd, the Israeli Defense Ministry announced that over 1,200 trucks carrying 23,000 tons of humanitarian aid have been cleared to enter the Gaza Strip in the past week. In an interview with Reuters on August 4th, Lieutenant Colonel Nadav Shoshani stated that the Israeli military is committed to facilitating the delivery of humanitarian aid to Gaza. He added that the war against Hamas in Gaza could end today if the Islamist militant group controlling the Gaza Strip lays down its weapons and releases the Israeli hostages.
Well, we are working alongside the international organizations. This is something we've been doing since the beginning of the war in a joint war room. Daily conversations with the different organizations, with the international community on how to improve aid distribution in Gaza. Obviously, IDF is in charge of facilitating the entrance, but also we do everything we can to make sure that we help the international organizations, we make the adjustments to help them distribute the aid. So we've put in place designated routes that are agreed and known to both sides. We've put out tactical ceasefires in different locations that can help them distribute aid, and we're communicating with them every day, finding new ways to improve distribution and find solutions to the problems, because it's very important for Israel. We are committed to this idea of humanitarian aid going into Gaza. We are committed to this effort, and we've been so since the beginning of the war. So I'm just going to tell you a story for 45 seconds.
Yeah, okay.
If I'm ever like a leader in Israel, this is what I'm going to do. Israel's not putting a limitation on the amount of trucks going in. As fast as the UN can pick them up, we'll bring them in. For many months now, and still to this moment, the problem has been pickup. There are hundreds of trucks worth waiting to be picked up. Just a few weeks ago, there were almost 1,000 trucks worth waiting to be picked up within Gaza. They kind of created a bottleneck or a traffic jam because the cargo was full to bring aid in. So Israel is not the bottleneck when we're speaking about aid going into Gaza. It is the pickup and the distribution. The main problem is you get drinking water, but then you get access of... The IDF does not decide on what goes in or not. The IDF facilitates the entry. Okay. I can tell you that there's a lot of efforts right now happening by Kogat. Just recently, they fixed the water line and the electricity going to the desalination site in southern Gaza. So there's a lot of work regarding water in Gaza. There's a lot of efforts happening. Kogat is leading that effort. The IDF does not approve or disapprove of any of that. The IDF facilitates what it's instructed to do, and we will continue doing that for whatever is on the line next. Deep underground, but then it deals with the aquifer and all I believe Hamas is taking a lot of encouragement from the global attention to what they're claiming is Israel is starving Gaza, which is a false claim. We are persistent in our goals of the war to dismantle Hamas and to release the hostages. We're operating underground in different areas according to intelligence, pushing Hamas terrorists, pushing those pockets of terrorists that are left, fighting, dismantling the infrastructure, those tunnels, those hundreds of miles of tunnels that Hamas has dig underground in Gaza, and pushing those terrorists even more. I think it's a reminder for the world on who we are fighting and the horrible conditions with which they're holding our hostages. You know, my stomach flipped around when I saw the image of the terrorists with a thick hand reaching out to Aviatar David with images that I thought I would never see again in history of Jews looking like that. And that's the reason why we're operating in Gaza. And as I said before, this war could have ended today if Hamas puts down their weapons and release those civilians that they are starving to death.
The Israel Defense Forces, IDF, announced that 6 countries, Jordan, UAE, Egypt, Germany, Belgium, and Canada, participated in the airdrop of humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip on August 4th. Among them, Canada joined the airdrop effort for the first time since the operation resumed on July 26th. Canada also accused Israel of violating international law and called for an immediate cessation of such actions. A total of 120 aid packages, equivalent to approximately 120 tons of goods, were airdropped into Gaza yesterday. Since July 26th, when Israel began easing restrictions on international aid deliveries to Gaza, 9 countries have participated in the humanitarian airdrop efforts, with a total of 675 packages dropped. GHF, an organization backed by the U.S. and Israel, began distributing food packages in Gaza in late May after Israel tightened restrictions on UN-led aid distribution, claiming that most of the aid was falling into the hands of Hamas. Hamas has denied stealing the aid. Anthony Aguilar, a former contractor for UG Solutions, a company paid to provide security for aid deliveries in Gaza, said that security personnel fired tear gas and occasionally shot warning shots at hungry Gazans rushing into poorly designed aid distribution points. The Gaza Humanitarian Fund, GHF, which operates the aid distribution points, and UG Solutions, which provides security on their behalf, denied any wrongdoing and stated that Aguilar is a disgruntled former employee who was fired for poor performance.
We would place all of the aid on a site in piles and rows, kind of like, imagine, if you will, the Hunger Games. When distribution happened, the Israeli Defense Force would release the large crowd and the building crowd of Palestinians from a security line about 1 kilometer away, respectively, to each site, depending on which site we were using. And then that would turn into only what I could describe as like the Gaza Olympics, or the survival of the fittest. That it just became an all-out race to the sites to get the aid. That created in itself a lot of chaos, a lot of people moving. The entry and the exits at each sites were very narrow and constrained. So imagine a large crowd of people, thousands of people, moving through an area, coming into a very narrow point on a site that's surrounded by berms and razor wire. So everybody's contained in this site. A Palestinian man was on his knees, hands and knees, and he had a backpack, and he was picking up individual dried noodles, because by the time he had got there, because he had a disability. There was something there was something wrong with his leg. So when they released the large crowd to come to the site, he was one of the far later people to get there, and there was nothing left. All the boxes of aid were gone. There was nothing left. So he came with his backpack. And there were still other people on the site, so it wasn't like he forced his way onto the site. He was there with everybody else. There was just nothing left for him to get. So he was picking up individual noodles and putting them into his backpack. And the IDF called on the radio and said, hey, everybody needs to leave the site. So the UG Solutions personnel start coming through as per what became normal, throwing stun grenades, tear gassing people, warning shots. And one of the UG Solutions guards came up to this guy and sprayed him in the face with an entire can of pepper spray, mace, OC spray. Industrial grade, like riot control pepper spray, not the type you buy on a keychain at the gas station to go out and take on a run.
Mr. Aguilar's statements are false, self-interested, and an attempt to seek retribution against UG Solutions. Mr. Aguilar was terminated from his contract with UG Solutions on June 13th, 2025, due to poor performance, volatile conflicts with staff, and erratic behavior. Since termination, Mr. Aguilar has spread a false narrative to media outlets around the world, while at the same time begging UG Solutions to hire him back. Mr. Aguilar's activities in the last several weeks make clear that he's making good on his threats to, in his own words, make UG Solutions, be UG Solutions' worst nightmare if they didn't hire him back.
Recently, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is considering the full occupation of the Gaza Strip and expanding military operations, despite opposition from the Israel Defense Forces, IDF. Netanyahu has discussed this plan with his cabinet, aiming to defeat Hamas and control the entire region. The military operations are expected to take place in densely populated areas, including central refugee camps, marking a significant shift in Israel's strategy in Gaza. The IDF is concerned that occupying the entire Gaza Strip could take years to dismantle Hamas's infrastructure and endanger hostages. If implemented, this plan could severely impact civilians and humanitarian operations in Gaza.
Amid relentless efforts to deliver aid to the people of Gaza, the humanitarian crisis there remains extremely severe. While international organizations and numerous countries continuously call for support, conflicts, accusations, and obstacles in the reception and distribution of aid are making the humanitarian process more chaotic than ever. We will continue to update the latest developments regarding the situation in the Gaza Strip in our upcoming reports. Thank you for your attention and follow-up.